Oh yeah, you get some spray.
Spray on us. I appreciate that spray. Use that
Oh yeah. I'll call this meeting to order. I'll call the roll. Al Babcock. Here. Keith Slade. Here. Joe Vandenberg. Here. Brad Carey. Here. Rick Seavey. Here. Mark Hoskins. Here. John Hilbert. John is absent. If you'd all please rise and do pledge allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from the January 28th meeting? Approve. I'll second that. Then moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the January 28th meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion passes. Okay, have you looked over the agenda? Is there anything you see needs to be changed? I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion passed. Okay, is there any public comment on agenda items? The additional public comment on everything will be later. Is there any public comments now on the agenda item? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Okay, first thing up is our ordinance amendment on data centers. We have a draft. Ross, do you want to take over and explain that?
So at the last meeting last month, the Planning Commission recommended a moratorium, which was adopted by the Township Board so that the Planning Commission could study appropriate regulations, and you asked me to prepare a draft zoning ordinance amendment. So I did that, and that's what you have before you. Basically, what the amendment would do is it would add a new section 3.39 in the general regulations for all data centers and digital mining uses, and establish several different types of data centers, including accessory data centers, small scale, medium scale, and hyperscale. And those are regulated by the amount of electricity they require, with a hyperscale being 100 megawatts or more. Then what the ordinance does in addition, and I'll get to some of the restrictions and requirements, is basically what it would do is it would regulate data centers to allow accessory data centers, small things for existing use in the neighborhood, commercial, highway, commercial, and light industrial. And also small-scale data centers would be permitted in the highway, commercial, and the light industrial. Medium-scale and hyperscale would only be allowed with a special land use with a lot of requirements on it. I mean, you guys know this, special land use means there has to be a hearing notice to the neighbors, and there's a lot of discretion for the township. One thing that the special land use provisions have is that in order to have a medium scale or hyperscale data center, it would have to be public water and sewer available, and there would have to be electrical infrastructure available. So that's something the Planning Commission can talk about, but as a starting point, I put it closer to where water is available from Cedar, and down by the power lines at the south end of the township. Then there's several pages of things designed to regulate and protect a lot of the things that we talked about last month that were brought up. There are restrictions on, get up to it for a minute, noise. The noise couldn't exceed 45 decibels, which is the same restriction that the township put in for special land use solar facilities. So it had to be as quiet as the solar facilities that you adopted. There would be setbacks, and you can look at those, but the setbacks would be 500 feet from any lot line for a building located near a residential area. And regulations on hazardous materials, requirements regarding air and water quality, stormwater management, that would require a closed loop cooling system so that to reduce the use of water. Then you'll see there's several regulations on power, and obviously the township can't set utility rates. But there would be requirements on the applicant to show that there's available capacity and supply, and also to show that it would not cause an increase in electricity costs for township residents. Other regulations on safety, parking, fencing, emergency contact, decommissioning requirements, and the like. And then there's additional special land use requirements. Those are starting on page 13, the medium scale and hyperscale. All of the other regulations that we just talked to would apply, but in addition, there's requirements for additional hydrogeological and environmental impact studies, water feasibility studies, the location requirements that I talked about, that there be appropriate infrastructure, and minimum lot areas, building heights, and the like, as well as green belts and landscape. So that's the initial draft. I know there's a lot there. It's something that you can study and talk about, and we can go over it here. You can appoint a subcommittee to look at it further. At some point, when the Planning Commission is ready, we would then get a final version and set it for a public hearing, after which time it could be recommended to the township board. So happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to ask a question about the hyper size. I know you mentioned that the other ones were special and highly commercial and industrial. In the hyper size one, what is the zoning designation allowed for the unit? I believe we read it was special land use and ag res.
And light industrial.
And light industrial. Like to limit that to light industrial. Just as a proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? Now, I do want to explain to everybody, we just got this amendment, and what we're going to do, it will be posted on the township website, so you'll all be able to get a copy of it. Basically, you can't get a copy of it because we just got it, and we're going to go over it, and you can pull it up off the website, and if you have any questions, you can write them down, bring them into the township. I don't know, I guess possibly could email them to Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to discuss it and see about putting together a subcommittee to go over this, because there's a lot of stuff in here that we need to figure out ourselves. But it will be available whenever Yvonne gets it up on the website. I have no idea it'll be soon. Yep, okay. And it will be, so keep watching for it, and it will be available for everybody. And I just wanted to make that clear. It's not something that we're trying to hide. You're going to be able to see it. We just got it yesterday. So, I guess, Mark, do you have anything you want to?
Nope, I think you're correct. We need to pass it on to the subcommittee to review, to come back with questions, and then we can all discuss it from there.
Mr. Chairperson, I'd like to make a comment. Just for those of you that don't know, I'm scheduled in the office 1 day a week, and that's on Tuesdays. I will make an effort to come in more often to see when it comes in, so it's available. Any emails and so forth that you get to me, I will take a look at it and try to respond as soon as possible. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I guess at this point, I will make
I got a follow-up question. Ross, this is for you. I just want some clarification. Does the state have the authority to override the township's decisions when it comes to data centers? I know they do with solar, wind.
Currently, there is not a preemption provision in place. Unlike solar, wind, mining, a whole host of other things, oil wells, there's currently not a state preemption. There are limits on what a township can do by law. It's not the same as solar.
I was doing some reading this evening, as a matter of fact, and I noticed there that in some of the documents that I have, it said that basically a township can't stop it. That's why I asked the question.
So the idea there is that you can't do exclusionary zoning for use.
Okay. And then another question is, we set this noise level at 45 decibels. Is that a guideline that was established by the state as well? Because I know they do have some restrictions. I know we've got them for the solar and so forth, but
That's up to the planning commission. I took those because that's what you guys adopted for the solar in the last year.
okay. And then one more thing is there any way we can put something in this to address when there's peak demand? Because currently it's about $150 per kW, but like if there's a brownout, blackout, or something like that, you have to go out on the open market to buy your energy. And that energy, I saw some last summer that was as high as $1,800, and that's when the residents would be buying it as well. So is there any provisions we could put in there to cover that?
We can talk about it, try to figure it out. Like I said, the township can't regulate the utility charges. Right.
Can't hear
you.
Got two microphones?
So the question was, electrical use and what limits the township can place on it. And that's something certainly the planning commission can discuss. We have to be a little bit creative because the township can't set utility rates. But we'll look to do whatever we can do.
Okay, thank you. I guess at this point, I'll make a motion to refer this to a subcommittee of 3. I guess I will be on it. Is there any other volunteers?
I would.
So you only do 3.
We can only do 3. You'll do it? Okay, I guess the committee is going to be myself, Keith, and Mark, and we will go over this ordinance, and if you pull this off the website or get a copy of it, if you have any questions or suggestions, drop them off and get them to the township. And we will be going through that list also. And between what we can get and what you can come up with, we'll see what we can do with this. Is there any debate on it? I guess we will vote on the subcommittee of 3. All in favor, say aye. Oh, okay, yeah, Keith got a second, okay. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion passed. And now I guess we will move on to the ordinance amendment on the rezoning of 17 Mile Road. I think, Mark, you had some stuff on that, or do you want Rob to? Okay. Rezoning of 17.
Sure. So what is going on here is you know this is for the audience too, the Planning Commission and the Township Board has been working on the master plan with respect to 17 Mile Road and the highway to the west. And the master plan was amended and passed. And so what the township is now in the process of is rezoning properties along 17 Mile consistent with the master plan. And it was the end of last year. That process was completed for between Algoma Avenue and 131. This would now be the draft zoning ordinance that would rezone the properties along 17 Mile to the west. And that would be to the neighborhood commercial. We also had some provisions as part of doing that on protecting homes within the neighborhood commercial is text amendments. What you have in front of you now is what you asked me to prepare, the actual rezoning of the properties located along 17 Mile. And I did the best I could putting that together, but my thought on that one, there was a subcommittee that was working on that master plan, came up with those lines that maybe the next step to this one would be to go to that same subcommittee and have them go over each property to make sure that they're comfortable with where those actual lines are, how far because it varies on what the parcel is, and to make sure we have the right parcels in there. And then once they're satisfied with it, we have it, then we could set it for a public hearing and then a recommendation to the township board.
When we put this together, what we try to do is go approximately 330 feet on each side of 17 Mile from Algoma to Division. One of the things that we want to review is to make sure that we have, if there's a parcel there that's 320 feet, that's all included. We're not going to take the 10 feet off the next parcel. Parcel's 340 feet, we'll include the whole parcel instead of splitting that up in zoning. That's one of the reasons to go back to a subcommittee to verify that we have everything correct, that we're looking at it correctly, and making sure that we're not missing something.
Okay, thank you. The subcommittee we had, we can only have 3 on it, and one is not on the planning commission anymore, so the 2 remaining are Mark and Joe. So I need 1 more that wants to be on that rezoning amendment. So we have the 3. Is there any volunteers? Hal? Okay. We'll put Hal on that along with Mark and Joe. I guess I'll make a motion to do the subcommittee of Mark, Joe, and Hal.
Second.
There's been seconded. Any discussion?
Are we bringing this back next month for a public hearing?
If you can have it done by then, yeah. Well, we probably won't do the public hearing at that point, but probably bring it back next month to go over it and then set the public hearing. So that would basically,
You could set it for public hearings and the subcommittee look at it, because this is just a rezoning that you've been talking about. It's different than this long text amendment. Either way, if you wanted to make a motion for a public hearing, you guys would just have to go through and verify that the ordinance lines up with those colorings on there. We could do it if you want.
okay, do you think you can have it done by then? Okay. Well, we've got a motion for the subcommittee of those 3 people. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion passed. And then we'll make a motion to have this ready to set a public hearing for next month on rezoning.
I'll make that a motion.
I made a motion. You'll second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. Motion passed. So next month we will have a public hearing on that rezoning on 17 Mile. Okay, moving on, unfinished business. I see we have none. Planning commission members, do you have anything? Seeing none. Correspondence received, local zoning housing proposal, MTA action alert.
In your packet, you'll find the action alert from the Virginia Township Association. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Basically, the state is trying to push their way in to our township zoning ordinances on residential. The state feels that we have a housing shortage, and they're trying to loosen up property to build homes on. So there's 3 different proposals before the floor of our state legislature to have it that in areas where they have public water, public sewer, they can make about 1/4 acre lots, and the townships have nothing to say. So I wanted to bring it to your attention to contact the legislature, let them know how you feel about that. Those are 3 bills that are on the floor right now, and there's 2 more coming that will, along the same lines, but they're not on the floor yet.
Okay, thank you. Is that something we should post on the website also? People want that on there, you can call your rep, okay, we'll have Yvonne put that action alert on the website also. Okay, report of Township Board Representative. Nothing. Board of Appeals. He's not here tonight. Report of Zoning Administrator.
Nothing at this time?
Okay, nothing at this time. Okay, now we're down to the public comment. And basically the same rules as before. We're going to have 2 minutes. I appreciate everybody being respectful to whoever is talking, and you'll all get a turn. And I guess we'll make sure we find a microphone here. And yep. Okay, we got one right here. Here's the microphone. And I will open this up to public comment. So anybody that wants to come up and speak, now is your time.
Brian Rowling, 3331 Solon. And one of the things I heard last night that may help you guys out, I don't know, in the State of the Union, Trump said that data centers must provide their own power. Okay, I didn't know if you guys were aware of that. Okay, another thing was consideration on 17 miles, pretty hilly road there for your entrances and exits over there, you know. I mean, already gets kind of busy, and so that's it. Doing a great job, Southway.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comment?
I'm John Riggs, scheduled from Prince William. I want to say thank you. What I'm hearing tonight is actually what we've been wanting to hear. You know, Ross gave some awesome comments, and hopefully with committees and everything, takes a load off my shoulders. I'm already talking to a builder to just get down. And, you know, if this thing goes through, you're probably going to have a mass exodus. It's realistic. Questions, maybe chokeholds. Why close the loop? Why not put it geothermal? Make them spend the money. Geothermal, it's quiet, it's in the ground. It's a good solution, but it costs a lot. Second, fee schedule. if we have a fee schedule for breaking rules, regulations, I'm just gonna throw numbers, you know, you guys got caught out in Pete Boston, slapping with $1 million bill. They do it again, $10 million. Do it again, $100 million. They got money. Let's just make sure the community, I mean, set the fines extreme. I mean, I don't know if we can do that legally, it's just an idea in my head. And then second, if they do have to have a power plant, like I said, there's a gas line running on the Morris property. Are we zoned for that? Are we having any precautions coming in for a power plant on our territory? Realistically, you're worried about a closed loop system, but how much water would be used in the gas plant? And again, I want to thank you guys. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. I did forget to tell everybody to silence their phones, so.
What I came up to ask the question is, when we rezone and let area people come into our area here, it's like Myers, they provided the service for the township. The hotel provides a service for the township. This company's not going to provide anything for the township. What they're going to do is they're going to wreck our land, and everything that they touch, they tear up. So, in 15 years, they're gone. When they're gone, our land's junk. Okay, it wrecks the dirt, the air, and everything. So rezoning it to let them come in for any reason, I can't see that. And none of these government setups for like windmill and stuff doesn't have anything to do with these data centers. So they don't have any rights to any of the things for that stuff. So we need to stop them before they get in here, because once they already tore up our land and stuff, we can't do anything about it. Finding them, a big deal, we get a few bucks. It doesn't save our people's life. And they're going to tear our lives up.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Brian Zagman, I live on 17 Mile. A mile east of Oklahoma. Did you, what are they going to do with that? What are they going to go with that next? Or is that what this, maybe come up with stuff? In White Creek, Oklahoma.
Between White Creek and Oklahoma,
That's how it came from.
on 17 Mile Road. On the north side of the road is highway commercial. On the south side of the road is light industrial. That is the zoning currently right now.
You're going to change that?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Brandon Wilmer, I live on Albert. I have a question. I heard the environmental impact study is going to be done for the data center, but I'm curious if anyone knows if they do radiation testing for that. Obviously, data centers have a lot of EMFs and other signals coming in and out all the time. And I know that they use concrete walls to kind of keep that inside the building. But usually, these large data centers emit tons of heat. So they have to have a lot of cooling towers and all that. Geothermal is an option, but that just drops into the ground. If that radiation gets out of the pipe or whatever that goes in the groundwater, and then EMF stuff causes tumors, cancer, that kind of stuff. So, just curious, if that kind of stuff is looked at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm sorry. My name is Chris Agler. I live at 1950 Sunset View Court in the Sunset Ridge development. I'm about 2 miles away from the proposed area where they're putting the solar. I really don't want to see this thing. But we've already heard about all the possible pollutants and all the things that can go wrong with that. But has anybody really thought of what happens when this fails, like during the .coms?
I mean, we could be stuck as an entire township with having to pay for this for an empty building that we can't use. We can't even convert it to a storage unit because they're not tall enough for most cargo. So I wonder if anybody really looked into what we're going to do when it fails, and most of these technology things do fail. So, thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson Zeddy. Am I pronouncing your name correct?
Both.
Zeddy? Steve, my apologies. Thank you for taking our comments, and especially for the work you're doing, the due diligence on the ordinances. We appreciate that so much. I just have a couple.
State your name and address for the record.
Cindy Patton, 2207 15 Mile Road Northeast, and that's in Sparta. I'm actually in Algoma Township, but close neighbors to this. So I appreciate the project work that you're doing on this. I just want to draw your attention to an article recently that was posted both on MLive and on Fox, Fox 17, about the decrease in farmland over the last 2 decades in Michigan alone. In the year of 2024, we decreased by 100,000 acres in West Michigan of farmland. The other thing I want to draw attention to is in January, just last month, January 28th, Miss Tammy Clark, who is a trained OSHA and EPA professional, testified in the Michigan Oversight Committee that closed-loop systems still are toxic to the environment. That recording is available online if you'd like to follow through with that. So perhaps we need to put some extra ordinance pieces in there on a system. I don't know what the geothermal would do, but something that's not going to have some serious repercussions. I'm also noticing that DTE just approved another rate, was approved, and I know you don't approve DTA to raise our rates, but 4 out of 5 years, they've done a rate hike. They've been approved for it. So we obviously need to let our legislatures know that DTE asking for continual rate hikes put back on us is unacceptable, but that means that they're just going to continue to raise. So it is still affecting us. Like all of this infrastructure demand is still affecting us, especially at the gigawatts or the megawatts that this hyper data center would go to. The last thing, one other thing I'm wondering if we have to look into and put on an ordinance is if they bring in any type of diesel mechanical kind of thing to power their plant, as was mentioned earlier, that they're trying to require them, that there's a diesel emission standard that we include in there. And then lastly, for those of us with wells downstream of this, is there some way that we can pre-test and know what our contamination level is at right now, and that there's provisions for us in the future if something were to happen in ramifications like a fee schedule for damages like they're incurring with the PFAS and something else. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Rebecca Smallwood, 3670 Bennington Drive. First of all, thank you for allowing public comment on this. There's been some comments online about how those of us that are against the data center are somehow hypocrites because we're using Facebook and other data center technology in our daily lives. I, for one, am not against data centers in general. I work in tech, and I interact with servers housed within data centers on an hourly basis every day. I also have to use AI to be competitive in my profession. And yes, I enjoy watching Netflix and using email and all the other ways that living in a modern age requires us to use data centers and server farms. But here's the thing, just because I use data center technology does not mean I want one built in my community, right next to where people are living. There are wide swaths of this country where people don't live that would be just fine to place data centers. But you're not going to see that happen, and here's why. These companies that are worth billions of dollars want to piggyback on our already existing infrastructure because it's cheaper for them than building somewhere else from scratch. Never mind that it will destroy that piece of farmland, raise our energy rates, cause health issues, create construction for years, and plot a huge eyesore of a building right next to our growing community. This is not about rejecting technology or being anti-growth. It's about being thoughtful about planning, appropriate siting, and protecting the character and livability of our community. There are better places to build a structure like this. So we need to tell the Right Place Development Company that this is the wrong place to build. Please enact appropriate measures in the ordinance you are drafting that will legally keep data centers out of Sullivan Township. Thank you.
I'm Shelley Hall, I'm 418 Old Algoma Avenue, 4 houses north of Huck's Corners. I've lived there 36 years, and now we're told our house is zoned highway commercial, and if our house was to burn down, we can't rebuild it. So I do highly suggest we do a residential commercial. You can sell, I think, for small business maybe, but just want to take my comment. Thank you.
Sharon Poole, 13820 Sharon Lane, Cedar Springs, Michigan. I live in Cedarfield, mobile home park development. There's over 300 homes in there that this data center, if it goes through, is going to be in our backyard, literally. And we won't be able to sell our homes because of this data center. If we do sell, we're not going to get the money that they're worth. My question to you 7 people, are we allowed to have this on the ballot to vote on it so you can see just how many people are against this, or is it in your hands completely? What's going on here? The majority of the people in this room alone are against this.
Peter Zielinski, 2378 Winston View Drive. I live very close to the proposed center. I came up here, I think with everybody else to tell you, we do not want it here. We don't want to deal with the pollution, the noise, the light, the property values, the wildlife. Everything on that paper is true. We understand tech. You think my generation doesn't know the necessity of having tech and data centers? I've been mining cryptocurrency for years. I understand it. And we do not want it in our backyard. That's all.
Hi, my name is Tanner Vermeer. I live on Solon 3015, so pretty much smack dab between Algoma and Edgerton. A lot of us are really upset about this, and obviously we can write, we can own, but there are only certain legal abilities that we have at our disposal to stop this with the special land use permits and dealing with the exclusion zones, doing whatever we can to make sure that we have the best possible proposal so that we don't automatically get blocked because we're deemed exclusionary to these proposals that come through. Just making sure that we account for as many possible avenues as possible so that we don't make such a strict requirement that they say that, yeah, there's no way anybody can do it, and then they force it through anyway because legally they have that option. So I would just task the subcommittee with looking in to making it as strict as possible without making it impossible, because then it really will be impossible to stop. Secondly, outside of the data center, the intersection of Edgerton and 17 Mile, we have so many accidents all the time. Left-hand turns are impossible even in off hours. I understand that a traffic light might be a little hard because of the proximity to the light adjacent there, but the road is wide enough, and I feel like a roundabout would be an awesome solution, both in the lack of cost for infrastructure. It's really the road itself that needs to be addressed there. But that's something that, since I moved in 2020, has been a big pain for me and other people that need to take left-hand turns, both out of Meyer and out of Edgerton.
Okay. I feel covered on 17 Mile Road.
All the township can do is make recommendations because that is a state road, and the state, we've done traffic studies, and we can make suggestions, but whatever the state says is what the state does. And we have tried to do things. Okay, next.
Renee Hauser, 17929 Marsh Creek. Okay, first of all, thank you very much. It does sound like we are moving in a positive direction. I think before, we have all been looking for transparency. We've all been looking for answers. I know that you guys have been looking for answers too, so I just want to say thank you. This is encouraging. I appreciate the work that is being done thus far. I also appreciate the fact that you mentioned in this draft specific ordinances that were related to the utility grid for the solar energy system. I read through a lot of those ordinances that we currently have, and they're listed specific site sizes for that. Is that something that can be done for these data centers as well, to further limit the size of the data centers? Further to that, I know that one of the questions that was asked was, can the state override what our township is putting together right now? If in the future there were to be these preemptive states, I believe is what you refer to it as, would what we are putting into our ordinances today, once approved, once we get there, could they override that, or is there a grandfathered clause? So if we get these in here, we are limiting this, and they then come in at a different time and say, no, that doesn't work. Thank you.
My name is Jim Vincent, 3594 Hollyfield, Cedar Springs. And there's been a lot of discussion about them ruining the land. Well, I'm sure most of you are familiar with El Land. I worked at a building down there that was hit with a tornado. And it took a long time to get that building demolished. But once they did, it was because there was a bond issue that was held by the owners, so they had to put that building back, or that land back, to a clean state. And what we say is clean might be like the carpet, but a clean state is still rough soil area. And when we talk about the contamination as such, yes, there is, but we have computers, and some people have servers in their homes. Do you have radiation coming off them? Is there sites and things like that that affect you in your own home? So that's what I have in mind.
Thank you.
Rob Hall, 1480. When you guys made 17 miles, that whole corridor commercial, it was to get the commercial properties on the highway. Now we're going with in 17 we're talking about, that's not on the highway, that's quite a ways away from the highway. So to me, it doesn't make sense to have any of it little commercial because of that fact. The second fact is you only get half of that zone right there. There's only like 4 houses that are affected. The other side of the road's not. So what was the sense of doing that? Didn't make any sense to have one commercial and one not. So I prefer it not to be commercial at all if it's possible. Thank you.
John Wood, 5240 Russell Street. In addition to the infrastructure, noise pollution, and ground contamination, water issues, I think electricity is going to be a big thing. And there's an initiative within consumers and DTE Energy where they want to go green. One of the is changing their name to North Star Clean Energy. That should tell you everything. As far as utility rate hikes, when they build new infrastructure, they go before a panel of 3 board members, utility board members, maybe 1 Republican, 2 Democrats, or vice versa. And they'll look over the request and they go, yeah, you built this infrastructure. So you're allowed to have a rate hike. But we know that the windmills really don't work. If you ever go to Claire, if the windmills aren't turning, and I'm being generous, he just put in a massive solar farm. I'm very happy because the solar panels now turn with the sun. Well, we can't depend on that kind of energy. And with the data center coming in, there's a lot of ramifications that's going to hit us right in that pocket.
Keith Mann, 108119 Mount Road Northeast. I've heard everything out here. I applaud. They've said just about everything I would like to say. You guys are doing great. The thing I like is seeing all these people here. It makes me think what you and I were talking about. It is time to be involved with your government. And as our teacher too, Mark, Mr. Merlington, the most important part of the government to be involved in is your local government. That's right. I've been to a few meetings where, look, there was 3 of us there. This is perfect. This would be great if we had to have this at every meeting. Then you wouldn't have to worry about the ordinances. We'd be on top of it because I'm already back here scribbling on my sheet. I love it that you're putting it on the site. I'll be talking to my legislator as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.
I went to the Solon Township, or the Alcoma Township, just like a few days ago, and they seem to have known a lot more than you guys do, from what I have you guys. Which then it makes me wonder, do you guys work together? Is there, between them and you? And what other townships? I heard someone say there was like 5 townships involved, but that makes me curious how you're going to handle that. The others, why isn't it going into commercial areas, not in our areas? Why are there data centers? Why are they taking our land instead of going where it's already being commercial? Natalie O'Connell, 31 West Park Street, Sparta, Michigan. I've lived and worked in this area over 20 years. What I'm looking to speak on and protect the most would be our land, our water, and natural resources. This proposed data center could be detrimental, in which many believe would consist of too many potential negative impacts, with the main concerns of many people in the area are future effects on land, the well water of nearby residences, and the impact on Cedar Creek, which feeds into the Rogue River, the Grand River, and eventually leads to Michigan. It is also a reported trout stream.
people that have owned property here 25 plus years that are hardworking taxpayers do not deserve this slap in the face. I can't forget to mention the unknown future impacts this would have, and main concern being construction, traffic, utility costs, and noise. Townships are not supposed to cater to any corporation, developers, or anyone who wants to put in wind or solar farms or data centers. If any officials sign NDAs on those things and none of the landowners object, all collectively will be in a heap of trouble because they can be held personally responsible for their actions and inactions. If they're acting outside of the scope of the actual laws per the Michigan Constitution. So when you pledge allegiance on the Constitution, you are making a pledge to uphold the will of the people. That's right. That is what you are being hired to do. I would just like to inspire you all to know more with this. The Michigan Constitution begins with all power invested in the people. Thank you.
That's right.
Hi, I'm Katie Volchub. I live in Nelson Township, just 5 miles from where the proposed data center would be. The two biggest benefits of the Township Board and the right place to talk about for data centers are job creation and tax revenue. Data centers only have to create 30 long-term jobs to qualify for state tax exemptions. And they're also not supposed to receive any local tax breaks. But we know that there's a potential 50% tax break on the table for this data center. We also know that data centers don't create any permanent jobs. The Switch Data Center in Grand Rapids only has 26 long-term permanent employees working in Grand Rapids as of 2023. They were supposed to create 1,000 jobs by 2026 to qualify for those tax breaks. Local nonprofit The Right Place is promoting our data center along with data centers in Lowell and Gaines townships. The Right Place was also involved in the disastrous Goshen Battery Plant project near Big Rapids that lost us $23 million in state grants.
That's right.
That's not someone I'd want to hitch my wagon to. So while the Solon Township Board and The Right Place are excited about tax revenue and job promises, we know better. Thank you.
Custer, I live at 19 Mile Road, and I don't feel quite the way that I did the first meeting, but I feel like it's getting shoved up our backside.
That's right.
Whether we want it or not, you people are deciding it for me. How many people want a data center? Raise your hand. Oh, you want a data center? One. You're going to walk in the grocery store, and everybody's going to look at you and say, I already had a problem with somebody on the board. They told me I was the east end of a horse going west. Because I made a comment about, somebody's getting kickback from this damn thing or something because they're pushing it through. And I believe there's an awful lot of talk about it. It happens all over. Look at Minnesota. Look at Boston. Look at Maine. Maine is a deserted place, but not anymore. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise. I live at 2814 Elbow Creek, 19 Mile. For the life of me, I do not understand why you are even considering this crap. This is an agricultural community. You have livestock, you have food, fruit, orchards. Why the hell would you take a chance on wrecking that? This community has already suffered quite greatly. I think it was in 72 from a forever chemical that took out many people, wrecked livelihood, wrecked lives. Different situation. But you're dealing with forever chemicals here too. And once they're in our environment, we're screwed. They don't leave. Why do we want to leave that to future generations? Because these people will pull out in 10 to 15 years. What are you going to have? An environment that you can't even touch. And it's just going to be a wasteland. Farmers are needed. They sustain us. Why you would want to put them at risk is beyond me. You should be backing them, making sure what happened in 72 does not happen again with these forever chemicals, these god-awful nightmare data centers bring to our community. Consider that. We need farms. We need to eat. We need to sustain this. And we're losing farmland left and right. You put this poison right next to them, you're going to lose more. Consider that. Think about the past, how that affected your community, and how it can affect it again. Once again, different situations, same garbage. Thank you.
Mark Borsma, 2250 and 16 Mile Road. I just want to say that clearly the sentiment of the folks that live in the area is that they don't want this. A perspective that I have not yet heard this evening, I would like to share. I moved here to the area about a year ago. Lived in Grand Rapids for 30 years and wanted to get out of the city and be back in the country. So I bought 10 acres over there in 16 Mile. If I'd known that this project was on deck, I wouldn't have bought my 10 acres half a mile away from where this thing is going. I wouldn't have bought it. I wouldn't live here. So I think a perspective that I haven't heard yet is that not only do the people who live here not want it, people might not want to move here if this goes through.
Cody Carr, I live on 17 Mile, just west of Algoma. I asked you guys back in June last year what you were planning with your rezoning, and you told us you didn't have a plan, but the future plan was to look forward to 100 years. Through FOIAs, we know that in May, the township, at least in some effect, was approached about this project. So bear with me, because maybe I'm the only one, but there are a lot of us that maybe we haven't seen some transparency that we're finally starting to see. But bear with me. You guys made a mention of, the 100-year plan. My grandkids will be hopefully in this area in 100 years. I'm not gonna, but I want them to be here. I don't want to be here right now. And I've had a swing of emotions myself. I'll piggyback on John. It sounds like maybe you guys are trying to help make a little progress. I guess I'd say three things real quick. Light pollution. You can put a light pollution in there. They don't need a bunch of lights at night. If they're gonna have them, they can dim them. They can aim them. Ground pollution. Make them responsible for regularly monitoring through monitoring wells ground pollution. And if they see any spike, they're held reliable. When GM went bankrupt, GM is no longer responsible for any of their properties. Put contingencies in there for that. And the last thing I'd ask you is the structure size versus the facility size. Because if they build buildings that are small enough to not be a mega center, they might not have to meet some of this. But if the whole facility meets it as a one, make them not want to be here. We don't want them here. That guy. I don't want him. I don't think these people are speaking. Make them not want to be here, because we sure as hell don't want them here.
Michigan. I didn't plan to say anything, but I want to piggyback off the man who bought 10 acres to be in the rural area. And I've been looking for about 6 months to move back here because my parents live here. I grew up here. And as soon as this started, I quit looking. I love to live near my parents who are getting older and might need my help as time goes on. And now I'm looking at not being able to. They're a mile and a half from this thing. They've lived there since they got married in 1970. And now I can't live by my parents. And I'm in a position that I support farmers. I came from farming. I have farmland. I rent it out. I know that farmland is currently rented. Why didn't the Moore family consider listing this for agricultural use?
let it continue to be rented. Have them reach out to me.
Tim Rogers, 956 Kimberly, Grand Rapids. I live in Grand Rapids, but I've worked in Cedar Springs for 12 years. This community has become a second home to me. I care deeply about its future. I want to briefly address a couple concerns that I have, and some have already been talked about. First is water usage. As we know, hyperscale data centers require substantial water for cooling. In a rural area that depends on groundwater and agriculture, we need clear, transparent information about long-term impact before any approval is considered. Second is noise and light. These facilities operate 24/7. Even when compliant, constant mechanical and noise and industrial lighting can permanently change the rural character that makes Cedar Springs special. Third, the moratorium. I think 6 months is too short of a window for a project of this scale. Extending it 12 months would allow time for independent review, expert input, and thoughtful planning. That's not anti-growth, that's responsible governance. This isn't about stopping progress, it's about making sure progress respects the land, the water, and the people who call this place home. Thanks.
Stan Hall, I'm 3417 Mile Road. I've been there for about 44 years already, and I think there's a lot of people in here like me that are, I'm almost 80 years old, I'll go up again by May, that are on a fixed income, they're stuck, they can't move out of the area, and you have to live with whatever's coming. And I don't want to see this data center moving here either, and I don't know where to go. You know, I don't have the income to sell or to gain enough for what I own, because I don't own much there at 17 Mile Road. And I think there's a lot of people in here in my category too that don't want to see this thing come in.
Anna Felposh. I'm a resident of Solon Township. Okay, I'm just gonna read what I have on my phone. I stand here with the same sentiment as most others here tonight. We value our rural community and are trying to put our faith in you all sitting in front of us here tonight. I understand that the tax estimates you see are enticing, but like others have mentioned tonight, I implore you to consider what happens in 20 years from now when data centers have become obsolete and we are potentially relying on millions of dollars of tax revenue that could go poof overnight. I would suggest a clause in the new ordinance to have a required decommission plan for when these buildings inevitably become useless someday. I know Algoma Township has that proposed in theirs, and I thought that sounded innovative. Additionally, what happens when one data center is built and then suddenly there are 10 more companies knocking down our doors to build one in every corner of the township? You've been told that data centers bring jobs. That has proven to be untrue. To quote an article from Wired RE that cites Randy Thielen, the current CEO of The Right Place, from his time spent working at the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce in Nebraska. Completed data centers don't often employ many full-time workers. The article goes on to say that they are still beneficial to a state's economy from a tax revenue standpoint, but I wonder how beneficial they will be in Michigan with the multiple tax breaks we have here specifically for data centers that have been passed in the last 10 years. Our state government has rolled out the red carpet to give data centers as many tax breaks as possible. I implore you to be very careful about who has your ear when giving you the pros of data centers, as many of their advocates will simply tell you what they want you to hear, As many of their advocates will simply tell you what you want to hear to be able to achieve all of their money-making goals. I understand you legally cannot just say no to data centers, but I implore you to be stewards of the land and create ordinances that make it as hard as possible within your legal rights for data centers to come into Solon Township. Thank you.
Connor Whitbeck, 2250 Winston View Drive Northeast. Thank you guys for putting everything together that you have so far. I like the ordinances. Let's keep that going. What can we do to make it difficult, but not too difficult that we get sued by a company such as this? What can we do to look at townships that have succeeded here with the rules and ordinances they put in place? What did Saline, Michigan, what does Saline Township do wrong? How can we learn from that? What can we bring to the table there? Data centers require lots of generators. Usually a hyperscale data center is somewhere between 150 and 200 generators that they have to pull permits for air quality. Can we limit how many generators they can have? Because if those things kick on, your decibel levels will go up, your air quality will go down. Also, I think we need to ask, what will these data centers be used for? Will they be used for CPUs or GPU storage? GPUs use almost twice as much energy as a CPU would. Is it going to be for AI training or just data storage? Those are two very different things, and how much energy and water that those two types require. So I think we just need to be specific with it. Yeah, how many data centers can we have in one spot? The counties of London County, Virginia, and Prince William County, Virginia, both have the highest amounts of data centers built there. They stack on top of each other. One is built, more will be built next to them. How many are we talking all at once? And will that compound? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Carol, and I will be meeting Max said that don't have to use my address. Alright. At the end of our last township board meeting on February 9, the following sentence was said in conclusion after hearing many concerns of our community. It was uttered by our highest ranking elected township official. I could care less if I have a data center. Don't care one iota, one way or another. Right now, never have. I have thought about this chilling sentence countless times in the past few weeks, and it continues to sit beneath my skin and weigh heavily on my mind. Elie Wiesel, a Nobel Peace Prize-winning author, is well known for his quote, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference." He spoke often about the dangers of apathy and its implications on our everyday life. As a member of this community and a person who has attended many of the meetings and has been involved with this, I have felt very discouraged by the callousness of our township board, although I will add, I wrote this for tonight, that I am encouraged by this meeting tonight. We have so much to fight for and so much to lose. We have a responsibility to care deeply for each other and our land and water. Planning Commission board members Hal, John, Mark, Brad, Joe, Keith, and Nick. It is a very rare moment in a person's life in which they are given an opportunity to make a massive decision that will irreversibly change the landscape of a community for generations. I implore you to regard this opportunity with reverence. The language of this zoning ordinance is most likely the most important words you will ever help write. Please do so with love for your family, community, and future generations. Thank you.
Dave Johnson, 19 Mile. Just wanted you guys to think about some of this rezoning on 17 Mile. I mean, we've already got enough construction and enough buildings there that when you go up to Huck's Corners, you're waiting way over the hill on, coming home at night with the traffic we have now. I mean, Rick and I, we farm equipment. It's not easy to get down these roads with all these people coming in and out of here. I think that's going to be one big problem. The data centers, like any other businesses, they're all out for the lowest bidder to build everything. And And we're all worried about, PFAS. I deal with PFAS every day with municipalities. So we're gonna build something that's being built by the lowest bidder, all this radiation, all this other stuff to be in effect, it's something to look at too. Water, for cooling and stuff. Where are we gonna get it? I already see, South Haven, Holland, and Granville are bringing in a big pipeline for their municipalities. So they're sucking water from the lakes. And we're already in a, low water level anyway. So there's another thing you can think about with that and then farmland. That's all I can say.
Hi, I'm Mary Hayes. One thing I want to add that some people got a good point about having water testing done and testing put in place. Agreed, it needs to be a third party. It cannot be somebody that they choose or in-house. It has to be a third party. Also, when it comes to fines, it's not unreasonable to fine a multi-billion-dollar corporation in my opinion. Like, they have billions of sisters. Why make it a million? It needs to be enough that it could cover the potential health impacts and cover the cost of people's bills. I mean, in theory, that money should be used to help the people this is negatively impacting. So the fines need to be a lot more, and the money needs to go to the people directly that it impacts. That's my thought. But thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, we will close the public comment section. Well, I thank you all. We've got a lot of information from a lot of you, and like I say, pull up the website and get a copy of that ordinance, and any comments, get them to the township. The subcommittee will go through it, and we'll see what we can use, and hopefully learn a whole lot more. Our next scheduled meeting will be Wednesday, March 25th, and it will be held here. And I would like to thank Cross Creek Church for allowing us to have our meetings here, because the Township Hall is not big enough. And at that, I will make a motion to adjourn. Got moved and seconded.